Google launched the original Chromecast back in 2013, and it completely changed how we view content on the TV. So non-smart TVs could now become smart with a cheap $35 device that could be controlled with a phone, a tablet, or a computer. This is what many people needed, so understandably, these things sold like hotcakes. I remember when they first went on sale, they were sold out everywhere. And my dad was the one who designed the displays for the retail stores. So knowing that they were a hot item, my dad and I went searching for some, and eventually we walked into a Best Buy store where we found a few in stock. So we purchased them and sold them for twice the price on eBay the next day. Since then, Google has released 4 new iterations of the Chromecast with upgraded internals and hardware, but they haven't changed the core experience. Google's latest Chromecast device, simply called the Google Chromecast with Google TV, is a reimagining of what a Chromecast can be in the modern age. Google added a brand new interactive interface, new smart features, and a physical remote, while still keeping the device at a relatively cheap $50. A question I feel that many would ask right away is this new Chromecast worth it over the plethora of other streaming devices that are out there in the market? And I'm just going to answer that right away. This is absolutely worth it. I feel that for most people, this is the best streaming device that you can get regardless of budget. So let's take a look at the specifics.
You have to start with the hardware. I mean, that's what you see first, right? The first word that comes to mind when looking at this is cute. It's very cute in a good way, although I'm not entirely sure how cute could be considered a bad thing. Anyway, this device is pretty small, which kind of looks like a flattened, elongated hockey puck with an HDMI cord sticking out the top. The color that I have here is the white color called Snow, but Google also sells a coral sunrise color as well as a sky blue. For whatever reason, only the white model has been in stock for the past few months, so hopefully these other color options will be back soon. But for the first time since its inception, there is not a black colored Chromecast, which may be a bummer for some, but there's actually a good reason for this. This device is made from around 49% recycled materials, and black is often a hard color to come by when it comes to searching for recycled plastic. So Google picked colors that they felt could be easily obtained, which may or may not be why the other colors aren't in stock at the moment. Setup is incredibly easy. Just plug the Chromecast into an open HDMI port on your TV or receiver and plug in the USB-C cable into the device and an open outlet. I have to admit, it does look a tad bit weird just hanging from your TV. I can't help but feel that this isn't good for the cable, but it seems durable enough. The on-screen setup will take you through the rest, which will prompt you to install the Google Home app to link the device to your Google account and Google Assistant. During setup is also where the remote is linked to the Chromecast. This remote is very, you guessed it, cute. It's a small-sized remote, almost identically shaped and sized to a Roku remote. I've got to say, I love this remote. The buttons are clicky and responsive, it fits my hand perfectly, and it has just as many buttons as anyone would need. One thing that Google always does right is their buttons. So with the Pixel phones, the buttons have always been nice and clicky regardless of if they're made out of metal or plastic, and these buttons are super nice too, so just let's listen to this nice little click. Play and pause, or when you move around from one area to the next. Even the volume buttons, so nice when you press them in. Not bad and mushy at all. And even these buttons, nice click to it, nice back click. The top circular control allows for you to move left, right, up, and down, and the center is the selection button. Then right below that, to the right, is a Google Assistant button, which basically does anything that the Google Assistant can do on your phone or Google Home. You can ask for the weather.
Currently in La Crosse, it's 12 degrees and mostly cloudy. Today, it'll be mostly cloudy, with a forecasted high of 13 and a low of 3.
Ask it to play a certain show, or even turn on smart lights and view smart cameras. That last feature in particular is nice to have on a TV, which is most likely in the center of your home. How old is Cassandra Lee Morris? Besides that, there's a back button, a home button, a mute button, and shortcuts for YouTube and Netflix. Now, do I wish that the YouTube and Netflix buttons were programmable to any app? Absolutely. But I feel most people use these two services anyway, so it's not too big of a deal to me. Then, at the bottom, you have power and input buttons for your TV. The volume controls are on the upper right of the remote, again similar to a Roku remote or even a smartphone. You can set up the remote to control a TV and an audio device without the need for HDMI CEC. So this device can actually control my Sony stereo, which no other remote I've found is able to do, which is fantastic for my use case. I love that this remote can be reprogrammed like this, and it's something that a Roku can only do through HDMI, which doesn't always work. After you get everything set up, you are greeted with a new Google TV interface. The Google TV interface is a slightly skinned version of Android TV. So you have the Play Store here so you can install new apps. There's a lot you can tinker around with if you're really into that kind of a thing. There are a few pre-installed apps, but thankfully all of them can be uninstalled if wanted. As a streaming interface, Google TV works very well. Google has said that they tried to integrate all of your streaming services into this homepage showing shows and movies from each app that it feels that you would be interested in. This first For You section is basically a combination of all the other sections, so it shows shows and movies that you may be interested in all of your apps. Really, all the other sections are self-explanatory. There are no real ads on here, like a Fire TV or Roku, unless you consider certain show recommendations or Google's data collection ads. It's nice overall, and it lets you get to where you want to go without much fuss or complicated menus. As for the actual streaming part of this, streaming playback for me has been great. The Google Chromecast with Google TV supports HD and 4K HDR playback, so regardless of how new or old your TV is, this device should work just fine. I've been using this on a 2011 720p Panasonic television, so I can't speak for the 4K video playback, but HD has had no little stuttering over Wi-Fi. You can also buy an Ethernet adapter for this device if your Chromecast is near a router, but I found that Wi-Fi works just fine, at least for me. Apps like Netflix, Disney Plus, and YouTube work just as you would expect. I did, however, run into an issue with Hulu, which is not a fault of the Chromecast, but it's just the way that Hulu works. So since I'm living in a college dorm, I'm not at my home location. So Hulu will not work whatsoever on the TV interface. However, if I cast shows on Hulu from my phone to the Chromecast on the same Wi-Fi network, it works just fine. I personally find this restriction a bit silly because you can easily get around it, and no other streaming service has the same issue, but whatever. Of course, since this is a Chromecast, you can still cast content from your phone to a TV the same way that you did before. In fact, if you want to, you never have to use the physical remote. I know that many prefer a remote, especially older generations, so having this option is nice. Most of the time for me, I always find the content I want to watch on my phone and then cast it to the TV because that's just what I'm accustomed to, but do whatever works best for you. I feel a common misconception with casting is that you're simply mirroring your phone screen to the TV, which is not the case at all. Your phone selects the content to cast, but once it's started casting, the Chromecast does all of the work. You just use the phone to select what you want to do, so fast forward, pause, etc. It's just a virtual remote. So there's no loss of quality whatsoever when using your phone over a remote. I just thought I should make that clear, as I feel some people don't really understand that. But of course, if you want to mirror your phone's display to the TV, you can also do that as well with this.
This Chromecast has a stand-out keyboard, so much better than every other TV operating system. It's an actual QWERTY keyboard, and it has a nice autofill option that gives some good recommendations within.
And to be honest with you, that's really all I have to say about the new Chromecast with Google TV. Compared to other devices like the Amazon Fire Stick 4K or the Roku Streaming Stick Plus, I feel that the Google Chromecast overall just has them beat. The price is either the same or is cheaper than those, and it has a smarter assistant and catalog creation, And it's just so darn cute. In 2021, this is the streaming device I'd recommend to anyone in the market.
As always, thank you all so much for tuning in to Tea Time, and I'll see you guys later. Help me.